Oops. We're going to share the screen. Mhm. Bar, I don't know. Okay, I have to find it. That's a cool. Mhm. I know where I was. Hmm. Now we're sharing the screen. Just have to stop the share for a second and now share the screen. I think I'm right. Gotta make sure I'm right. Share the screen. And here we go. Share it and put this at the very top over to the right. Maybe right there. There we go. And we're going to select everything in here. Select, oh, okay, I have to get in here first. It's only 17 pages. That's fine. Select all. And then we can let the computer read it to you because it's unbelievable. These people never did anything. And this is Las Vegas, but this is America. Listen up, y'all.
Transitioning to the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA. Frequently Asked Questions, February 26, 2016. ESSA TR City on FAQs US. Department of Education Table of Contents. ESSA Transition Frequently Asked Questions Introduction. 3A General Guidance on ESSA. Transition. 4B Guidance regarding SE Flexibility. 7C Transition Guidance regarding Title I Programs and Requirements. 10D Guidance regarding Title II. Part of Programs and Requirements. 14E Guidance regarding Title III. Part of Programs and Requirements. 16. 2 ESSA TR City on FAQs US. Department of Education Introduction on December 10, 2015. President Obama signed the bipartisan Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, which reauthorizes the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, ESSE. The ESSA builds upon the critical work states and local educational agencies, LEAs, have implemented over the last few years. The reauthorized law prioritizes excellence and equity for our students and supports great educators. The Secretary is offering guidance on transitioning from the ESSE, as amended by the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001, NCLB, to the ESSE, as amended by the ESSA, including actions the U.S. Department of Education, ED has taken or will take consistent with its authority under Section 4B of NCLB to the ESSA to support states, LEAs, and schools in this transition. ED has prepared these frequently asked questions, FAQs, to support states and LEAs in understanding expectations during the transition to full implementation of the ESSA. If you are interested in commenting on this guidance, or if you have further questions that are not answered here, please email ESSAquestions@ed.gov using the subject ESSA transition question or write to us at the following address: U.S. Department of Education, Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, 400 Maryland Avenue, SW, Washington, D.C. 20202. Please note that this guidance is available in electronic form on ED's website at http://www.ed.gov policy lsec leg ESSA index HTML. ED will update this document on a rolling basis. 3 ESSA TR City on FAQs US. Department of Education, A General Guidance on ESSA Transition A1. Where can the public access the text of the ESSA? The full text of the ESSA is available at https://www.gpo.gov size PKG Bills 114s 1177 ENR PDF Bills 114s 1177 ENR PDF. In addition, the full text of the ESSA, as amended by the ESSA, is available at http://legcouncil.house.gov comps elementary %20 and %20 secondary %20 education %20 act %20 of %200 1965 PDF. A2. How will ED award and administer the fiscal year FY 2016 appropriations for state and district formula grant programs under ESSA that do not have competitive subawards? As stated in ED's January 28, 2016, Dear Colleague Letter, DCL, under the ESSA transition provisions, as clarified by the Consolidated Appropriations Act, 2016, ED will award and administer FY 2016 formula grant funds in accordance with the ESSA as in effect on the day before the date of enactment of the ESSA, i.e., the requirements promulgated under NCLB. Specifically, ED will make FY 2016 formula grant awards for the 2016 to 2017 school year to states and districts receiving funds under the ESSA non-competitive formula grant programs in the same manner and using the same allocation formulas it did with FY 2015 formula grant funds for the 2015 to 2016 school year. A3. How must a state make formula grant allocations to LEAs for FY 2016 for the 2016 to 2017 school year? Each state must make formula sub-grant allocations to LEAs in the same manner and using the same allocation formulas as it used for the 2015 to 2016 school year. A4. Must a state and its LEAs continue to implement ESSA state formula grant programs in accordance with NCLB in the 2016 to 2017 school year? In general, each state and its LEAs that receives FY 2016 funds under a state formula grant program under the ESSA must continue to implement that program in the 2016 to 2017 school year in accordance with NCLB requirements as they existed in the 2015 to 2016 school year. There are some specific exceptions to this general rule as discussed in questions A-4A, A-4B, and B11. A-4A. What accountability requirements must a state and its LEAs meet in the 2016 to 2017 school year? Section 5, E, 1, A, of the ESSA provides that ESSA Section 1111, B, 2, as authorized by NCLB, is effective only through August 1, 2016. Section 1111, B, 2 contains the requirement that each state that receives Title I, Part A funds must develop and implement a single, statewide accountability system, including establishing annual measurable objectives, AMOS, defining adequate yearly progress, AYP, and holding Title I schools and LEAs accountable under ESSA Section 1116. Accordingly, Sections 1111, B, 2, and 1116 are no longer in effect after August 1, 2016. Instead, under Section 5, E, 2, of the ESSA, a school or LEA that is identified in the 2015 to 2016 school year as a priority or focus school under ESSA flexibility, CB3 or as a school or LEA in improvement, corrective action, or restructuring, as applicable, under NCLB, CC4 must continue to implement 4 ESSA TR ANSITI on FAQs US. Department of Education interventions applicable to the school or LEA through the 2016 to 2017 school year. A state that is not implementing ESSA flexibility may, but is no longer required to, ensure that its LEAs offer public school choice, supplemental educational services, SES, or the related notice to parents during the 2016 to 2017 school year, CC4 and C5, A-4B. Are there any NCLB requirements with which a state or LEA need not comply during the 2016 to 2017 school year? Yes. In order to ensure an orderly transition from ESSA requirements under the NCLB to those under the ESSA, ED has identified the following provisions with which a state or LEA need not comply during the 2016 to 2017 school year because those provisions are not continued under ESSA. 1. Section 1111, H, 1, C, 2, N, H, 2, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which require each state and LEA to report performance against Amos, CC 9, 2, Section 1111, H, 6, B, 2, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which requires a school to notify parents when their child has been assigned to, or has been taught for 4 or more consecutive weeks by a teacher who is not highly qualified, CD 3, 3, Section 1117 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which requires a state to provide certain types of school supports and recognition, CC 6, 4, Section 1119 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which requires that each LEA hire highly qualified teachers, that each state and LEA report on progress toward all teachers being highly qualified, and that each LEA ensure that paraprofessionals meet certain qualifications and perform certain duties. CC 7, 5, Section 2141 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which requires an LEA not making progress toward all teachers being highly qualified to create and implement an improvement plan and requires the state to provide technical assistance to such LEA. CD-2. 6. Section 3122, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which requires each state to establish annual measurable achievement objectives, AMAOs, CU1, N, 7, Section 3302, B, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which requires each LEA receiving Title III funds that fails to meet one or more of the AMAOs to provide notice to parents of such failure, CE3. As ED continues to analyze the ESA, it may update this list as necessary. Please note, however, that any requirements not explicitly excluded through this document, or forthcoming guidance, remain required through the 2016 to 2017 school year. CB 11 for specific provisions that ED will not require a state or LEA to comply with so that a priority or focus school is able to continue to implement appropriate interventions in the 2016 to 2017 school year. A5, through the 2016 to 2017 school year, must a state and its LEAs continue to collect data for the Consolidated State Performance Report, CSPR, to submit to ED facts in accordance with the SE, as amended by NCLB, in general. Through the 2016 to 2017 school year, each state and its LEAs that receives funds under a state formula grant program under the SE must continue to collect data for submission to ED in accordance with NCLB requirements. There are some specific exceptions to this general rule as discussed in questions A-4A, A-4B, A-5A, and B11, 5 SATR and City on FAQs US, Department of Education A-5A. Are there any NCLB reporting requirements with which a state or LEA need not comply? In order to ensure an orderly transition from SE requirements under the NCLB to those under the ESA, ED has identified the following data elements that a state or LEA need not report to ED facts based on data from the specified years because those elements are not required under ESA. 1. AMO and AYP files. File specification numbers N109 and N111, based on data from the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 school years, CC 11. 2. Data on supplemental educational services and public school choice based on data from the 2016 to 2017 school year, file specification C010, C128, and C164, CC12. 3. AMAO data, data groups 569, 518, and 688 in file specification number N103, based on data from the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 school years, CE4. 4. Highly qualified teacher data files. File specification numbers N063 and N064, based on data from the 2016 to 2017 school year, CD4. A6. Must a state submit a consolidated state application in July 2016 to receive FY 2016 funds? No, a state is not required to submit a consolidated state application for funding to ED in July 2016 to receive FY 2016 formula funds. The Consolidated Appropriations Act, 2016, clarifies that FY 2016 formula grant funds will be administered in accordance with the SE, as amended by NCLB. ED will provide additional information about consolidated state applications for future funding under the ESA 6 ESA TR ANSITI on FAQs US. Department of Education B guidance regarding SE flexibility. This section provides guidance related to changes to support the transition to the ESA for states operating with approved SE flexibility requests in the 2015 to 2016 school year. Implementing interventions in identified schools. B1. Must a state continue to implement its SE flexibility request? Each state with an approved SE flexibility request must continue to implement that request through the 2015 to 2016 school year. All SE flexibility requests are null and void as of August 1, 2016. B2. For a state with an approved SE flexibility request, what are the general requirements regarding priority and focus school interventions for the 2016 to 2017 school year? In accordance with Section 5, E2, B2 of the ESA, a state with priority and focus schools as identified under an approved SE flexibility request must continue to implement interventions applicable to such schools through the 2016 to 2017 school year. B3. What are the general requirements regarding priority and focus school lists for the 2016 to 2017 school year? As stated in the December 18, 2015, DCL, a state implementing SE flexibility must select one of the following options with regard to their priority and focus school lists. Option A. Do not exit schools and maintain current identification. A state may freeze its current lists of priority and focus schools as of December 9, 2015, the day before the date of enactment of the ESA. The state may not exit schools from the current lists. These are the schools that will continue to implement their approved interventions through the remaining months of the 2015 to 2016 school year and in the 2016 to 2017 school years. Option B. Exit schools and identify new priority and focus schools. A state may exit priority and focus schools that meet the state's approved exit criteria and identify new priority at least 5% of Title I schools, and focus at least 10% of Title I schools. Schools based on more recent data. These schools would implement their approved interventions through the 2016 to 2017 school year, as stated in the December 18, 2015, DCL. A state selecting this option must provide updated lists of priority and focus schools to ED by March 1, 2016. B4. During renewal of SE flexibility requests in 2015, some states provided an assurance that they would submit updated priority and focus school lists no later than January 31, 2016. What are these states now required to do? States that provided an assurance to submit updated priority and focus school lists no later than January 31, 2016, are no longer required to meet this assurance. Instead, all states with approved 7 ESA TR ANSITI on FAQs US, Department of Education SE flexibility requests must freeze their lists or, by March 1, 2016, exit schools and identify new priority and focus schools, as outlined in B3, B5. If a state chooses option A and freezes its current lists of priority and focus schools, what must it submit to ED? A state choosing option A does not need to submit anything to ED regarding its lists of priority and focus schools. However, all schools on these lists must continue to implement their approved interventions through the 2016 to 2017 school year. B6. If a state chooses option A, can it exit schools at the end of the 2015 to 2016 school year? No. As stated in the December 18, 2015 DCL, a state choosing option A may not exit schools at the end of the 2015 to 2016 school year. B7. If a state chooses option A, can it add schools to its priority and focus school lists in order to ensure that 5% and 10%, respectively, of all Title I schools implement interventions through the 2016 to 2017 school year? Yes. A state choosing option A may add priority and focus schools to its lists to ensure that 5% and 10% of all Title I schools are implementing interventions. However, a state is not required to add schools to these lists if it chooses option A additionally, as described in B3. A state that chooses option A does not need to submit updated lists of schools to ED, even after adding schools to its lists. Please note that, under option A state may add schools to its lists of priority and focus schools but must not exit schools from these lists. B8. If a state chooses option B and exits priority and focus schools that meet its approved exit criteria and identifies new schools based on more recent data, what must it submit to ED? A state choosing option B must provide its updated lists of priority and focus schools to ED by March 1, 2016. These lists must demonstrate that the state has identified the requisite number of priority and focus schools, at least 5% and 10%, respectively, of Title I schools. B9. If a state chooses option B and exits priority and focus schools that meet its approved exit criteria but still has a sufficient number of schools on its lists, must it identify new schools? No. If, after a state exits priority and focus schools based on its approved exit criteria, the state has still identified 5% and 10% of its Title I schools as, respectively, priority and focus schools, then it need not identify additional schools. However, as described in B3, a state that chooses option B must still submit its updated lists of priority and focus school to ED no later than March 1, 2016. 8. SATR ANSITI on FAQs US. Department of Education B10. Must an LEA in a state implementing SE flexibility include on its LEA report card the names of schools it serves as focus and priority schools for the 2016 to 2017 school year? Yes. And LEA in a state implementing SE flexibility must report on its LEA report card following the 2016 to 2017 school year the names of schools served by the LEA as priority and focus schools for the 2016 to 2017 school year. B11. All SE flexibility waivers are null and void on August 1, 2016, but priority and focus schools must continue to implement interventions beyond August 1, 2016. Is ED providing these states with any allowances to permit states to support these schools? Yes. In order to ensure that an LEA in a state that was implementing SE flexibility on the day before enactment of the ESA is able to comply with the ESA transition requirement to continue to implement interventions applicable to priority and focus schools during the 2016 to 2017 school year, ED will not require a state or LEA to comply with the following requirements of the ESE, as amended by NCLB. So that a priority or focus school is able to continue to implement appropriate interventions in the 2016 to 2017 school year. 1. Section 1003, which requires a state to distribute at least 95% of the funds it reserves to allocate to LEAs for use in Title I schools in improvement, corrective action, or restructuring. 2. Section 1114, 1. Which requires that a school have at least a 40% poverty rate to be eligible to operate a school-wide program. 3. Section 6123, B, which limits the amount of certain federal funds an LEA may transfer between programs. 4. Section 6213, B, and 6224, E, which require a state to permit an LEA that fails to make AYP to continue to participate in the small Rural School Achievement Program and to receive a grant under the Rural and Low Income School Program only if the LEA uses funds to carry out SE Section 1116, and 5. Sections 1113, 3, 4, and C. 1, which require an LEA to rank and serve eligible schools according to poverty and allocate Title I funds to schools in rank order of poverty. 9. SATR ANSITI on FAQs US. Department of Education C. Transition Guidance regarding Title I programs and requirements. This section provides guidance on ED's expectations during the transition to the ESA regarding certain Title I requirements. Title I, Part A Requirement C1. How must a state and its LEAs administer FY 2016 Title I formula funds in the 2016-2017 school year? As described in A3, a state and its LEAs must administer FY 2016 Title I formula funds in accordance with NCLB requirements as they existed in the 2015 to 2016 school year, except for specific provisions of NCLB that ED has communicated to states are no longer required, as listed in Annotative 4B and B11. C2. must a state develop and submit to ED for review and approval AMAs for performance in the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, or 2016 to 2017 school years? No, as explained in ED's December 18, 2015, DCL, ED is not requiring a state to develop, or 2. Submit for ED's review and approval, AMAs for school years 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, or 2016 to 2017. C3. If a state is required to calculate AYP either under NCLB or its approved SE flexibility request, must that state continue to calculate AYP based on 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, or 2016 to 2017 assessment results? No, AYP calculations are not required for schools and LEAs based on 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, or 2016 to 2017 school year assessment results. However, a state may choose to calculate AYP for schools and LEAs. C4. What are the general requirements for schools and LEAs identified as in need of improvement, corrective action, or restructuring in the 2016 to 2017 school years? Section 5, E, 2, I, of the SE, as amended by the ESA, requires a school or LEA that was identified in 2015 to 2016 by the state as in need of improvement, corrective action, or restructuring under the SE as it existed prior to the enactment of the ESA, i.e., under NCLB, to continue to implement the same interventions in the 2016 to 2017 school year. A state is no longer required to ensure LEAs provide supplemental educational services, public school choice, or the attendant parental notice requirements, CC5. In addition, for the reasons described in Annotative 4A, LEAs are no longer required to provide a parent of a student in a school identified as in improvement, corrective action, or restructuring with the notice described in Section 1116, B, 6, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, C5, is a state required to ensure that LEAs provide students in schools identified for improvement, corrective action, or restructuring with supplemental educational services and public school choice in the 2016 to 2017 school year 10 SATR ANSITI on FAQs US. Department of Education. No, a state is not required to ensure that LEAs with schools identified as in need of improvement, corrective action, or restructuring provide supplemental educational services, public school choice, and the related notice to parents in the 2016 to 2017 school year, but a state may choose to do so. A state that elects not to require LEAs to provide students with supplemental educational services, public school choice, and the related parental notice must develop and implement a one-year transition plan to support the orderly transition to the ESA. C6. Must a state continue to provide recognition and supports to schools as required under Section 1117 of the SE, as amended by NCLB? A state must continue to comply with Section 1117 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, through the 2015 to 2016 school year, for the reasons described in Annotative 4B. ED is not requiring states to comply with the requirements in Section 1117 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, beginning in the 2016-2017 school year, which requires a state to provide support for LEAs and schools receiving Title I, Part A funds and recognition of schools that close achievement gaps and exceed AYP targets. C7. Must a state and its LEAs continue to comply with the requirements in Section 1119 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which describe certain requirements for teachers and paraprofessionals? A state and its LEAs must continue to comply with Section 1119 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, through the 2015 to 2016 school year, including the requirement that a state and LEA report information related to highly qualified teachers based on the 2014 to 2015 and 2015 to 2016 school years. For the reasons described in Annotative 4B, ED is not requiring states to comply with the requirements in Section 1119 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, beginning in the 2016 to 2017 school year, which set forth requirements for highly qualified qualify teachers, the qualifications and duties for paraprofessionals, and use of funds to support compliance with the highly qualified teacher requirements. C8. Must a state continue to implement its state plan to ensure equitable access to excellent educators through the 2016 to 2017 school year? Yes. State plans to ensure equitable access to excellent educators, which each state developed to ensure that poor and minority children are not taught at higher rates than other children by inexperienced, unqualified, or out-of-field teachers, remain in effect for the 2015 to 2016 and 2016 to 2017 school years for all states. Section 1111, G. 1b of the ESA contains a similar requirement that low-income and minority children not be served at disproportionate rates by ineffective, inexperienced, and out-of-field teachers. ED will provide additional information on this new requirement in the future. Title I, Part A Reporting Requirement C9. What must a state and its lease continue to publish in state and local report cards for the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 school years 11 SATR ANSITI on FAQs US. Department of Education. Each state must continue to implement the report card requirements under Title I, Part A of the ESE, as amended by NCLB, based on data from the 2014 to 2015 if they have not yet been published, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 school years, except for specific provisions that ED has communicated to states that are no longer required in order to ensure an orderly transition to the ESA. CA4. For example, state report cards must continue to include each LEAS student achievement on the state assessments compared to students and subgroups of students in the state as a whole. At the school level, the LEA must include a school student achievement on the state assessments compared to students and sub C. 2, and H. 2. States and LEAs are, therefore, no longer required to include the following elements in state and local report cards based on data from the 2014 to 2015 if they have not yet been published, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 school years, AYP, CC3, and AMAS CC2. Additionally, as discussed in C7 and D5, states and LEAs are not required to include teacher quality information in report cards based on data from the 2016 to 2017 school year. C10. What must a state and its LEAs include in state and local report cards with respect to AYP? Since a state is no longer required to submit AMAS to ED for review and approval, a state and its LEAs are not required to report on state and local report cards whether an LEA or school-made AYP based on the 2014 to 2015 if not already published, 2015 to 2016, or 2016 to 2017 assessment results. However, a state and its LEAs must continue to report on state and local report cards the most recent LEA and school improvement statuses, including priority and focus school statuses, as indicated in the 2013 report card non-regulatory guidance available at http://www.ed.gov Programs Tidlet Parta State Local Report Card Guidance February 8, 2013 PDF. C11. What must a state report to ED as part of the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 school year CSPR submissions with respect to AMAS and AYP? Since a state is no longer required to submit AMAS to ED for review and approval, a state is no longer required to submit AMO files, file specification numbers N109 and N111, to ED facts for the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 submissions. A state is no longer required to respond to accountability questions in Section 1.4 of the CSPR specifically. 1. 4. 1 number and percentage of schools and districts that made AYP. 1. 4. 1 number and percentage of schools and districts that met all AMAS. 95% participation rate, and other academic indicator. 1. 4. 2. Number and percentage of Title I schools that made AYP. 1. 4. 2. number and percentage of Title I schools that met all AMIS, 95% participation rate, and other academic indicator. 1, 4, 3, number and percentage of districts that received Title I funds that made AYP, and 1, 4, 3, number and percentage of districts that received Title I funds that met all AMIS, 95% participation rate, and other academic indicator. Please note that each state is still required to report the other component parts of AYP, including performance against the participation targets in reading and math, file specification numbers N108 and N110, and performance against the other academic indicators file specification numbers N106 and N107. Each state is also still required to submit all related numeric data, including assessment results for each grade level, subgroup, and subject, participation rates for each grade level, subgroup, 12 SATR ANSITI on FAQs US, Department of Education and subject, and graduation rates for each subgroup. For further clarification about which ED-FACTS files are still required, please contact the ED-FACTS Partner Support Center toll-free at 877-457-3336, email at edenss@ed.gov, or visit http://www.ed.gov about INITS EdFacts Eden contacts HTML. For a state that has already submitted this information for the 2014 to 2015 school year, there is no additional action required. C12. What must a state report to ED as part of the 2016 to 2017 school year CSPR submissions with respect to supplemental educational services and public school choice? Since a state is no longer required to ensure that its LEAs provide those options, states are no longer required to submit data on supplemental educational services and public school choice to ED-FACTS for the 2016 to 2017 submissions. File specifications C010, C128, and C164. States are no longer required to respond to supplemental educational services questions and public school choice questions in Section 1.4 of the CSPR. 1, 4, 9, 1, 2. Public school choice. Students. 1, 4, 9, 1, 3. Funds spent on public school choice. 1, 4, 9, 1, 4. Availability of public school choice options. 1, 4, 9, 2, 2. Supplemental educational services, students, and 1, 4, 9, 2, 3. Funds spent on supplemental educational services. When reporting on the 2015 to 2016 and 2016 to 2017 school years, 13 SATR ANSITI on FAQs US, Department of Education D guidance regarding Title II. Part A programs and requirements. This section provides guidance regarding Title II programs and requirements during the transition to the ESA. Title II, Part A requirements D1. Must a state ensure that special education teachers are highly qualified, as defined in Section 9101 of the SEAS, amended by NCLB in the 2016 to 2017 school year? No. The ESA amended the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, by removing the definition of highly qualified in Section 602(10) and the requirement in Section 612, 14(c), that special education teachers be highly qualified by the deadline established in Section 1119, 2, of the SE, as amended by NCLB. Accordingly, a state is not required to ensure that special education teachers are highly qualified as defined in the SE beginning with the 2016 to 2017 school year, but must ensure that they meet the requirements described in -1A. -1A. If the definition of highly qualified is no longer applicable to special education teachers, what are the federal requirements related to the professional qualifications of those teachers? The ESA amended Section 612. 14(c) of the IDEA by incorporating the requirement previously in Section 602(10)(b), that a person employed as a special education teacher in elementary school, middle school, or secondary school must 1. Have obtained full certification as a special education teacher, including certification obtained through alternative routes to certification, or passed the state special education teacher licensing examination and hold a license to teach in the state as a special education teacher. 2. Not have had special education certification or licensure requirements waived on an emergency, temporary, or provisional basis. And 3. Hold at least a bachelor's degree. Each state must continue to comply with these certification requirements during the 2016 to 2017 school year. D2. Must a state continue to comply with the requirements in Section 2141 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, under which the state must ensure that LEAs take certain actions if they do not make progress toward all teachers being highly qualified and do not make AYP? Each state must continue to comply with Section 2141 through the 2015 to 2016 school year. For the reasons described in Annotative 4B, ED is not requiring states to comply with the requirements in Section 2141 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, in the 2016 to 2017 school year. Specifically, Section 2141 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, requires an LEA to take certain actions if it does not make progress toward all teachers being highly qualified and does not make AYP, including developing an improvement plan. Thus, beginning in the 2016 to 2017 school year, an LEA is not required to develop an improvement plan or restrict the use of federal education funds pursuant to such a plan. And a state is not required to provide the LEA the technical assistance that would be required to develop such a plan. Additionally, the state is not required to enter into the agreement required by 14 SATR ANSITI on FAQs U.S. Department of Education Section 2141, C, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, with an LEA. In addition, an LEA is no longer restricted in its use of Title I, Part A funds for hiring paraprofessionals. D3. Must a school continue to comply with Section 1111, H, 6, B, 2, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which requires a school to notify parents when their child has been assigned to, or has been taught for 4 or more consecutive weeks by, a teacher who is not highly qualified? No. For the reasons described in Annotative 4B, ED is not requiring states to comply with the requirements in Section 1111, H, 6, B, 2, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, beginning with the 2016 to 2017 school year. Schools will no longer be required to provide notice to parents related to the highly qualified status of their child's teacher. Please note that LEAs are required to continue with Section 1111, H, 6, A, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which requires an LEA to notify parents that they may request, and the LEA will provide certain information regarding the professional qualifications of the students, teachers, and paraprofessionals, as appropriate. Title II, Part A Reporting Requirements. D4. What must a state report to ED as part of the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 school year CSPR submissions as it relates to reporting on highly qualified teachers? A state must continue to report highly qualified teacher information to ED through the CSPR based on data from the 2014 to 2015 and 2015 to 2016 school years. States will not be expected to submit highly qualified teacher data files, file specification numbers N063 and N064, to ED facts based on data from the 2016 to 2017 school year. States are no longer required to respond to teacher quality questions in Section 1.5 of the CSPR. D5. What must a state and its LEA continue to publish in state and local report cards for the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 school years related to teacher quality? State and local report cards for the 2014 to 2015 and 2015 to 2016 school years must continue to include information on teacher quality, as indicated in the 2013 report card non-regulatory guidance available at http www.ed.gov Programs Tidlet Parta State Local Report Card Guidance 208-2013 PDF. States are no longer required to report information on teacher quality beginning with state and local report cards based on 2016 to 2017 school year information. 15 SATR ANSITI on FAQs U.S. Department of Education e-guidance regarding Title III, Part A programs and requirements. This section provides guidance regarding Title III programs and requirements during the transition to the ESA. Title 3, Part A Requirements E1. Must a state make new AMAO determinations based on 2014 to 2015 or 2015 to 2016 assessment results? No. For the reasons described in Annotative 4B, ED is not requiring states to comply with the requirements in Section 3122 of the SE, as amended by NCLB. As such, a state is not required to make new accountability determinations based on 2014 to 2015 or 2015 to 2016 assessment data, as appropriate. A state that chooses not to make new AMAO accountability determinations may freeze district accountability determinations under Title III based on the most recent AMAO calculations, and must continue to implement corresponding supports and interventions in those LEAs for the remaining months of the 2015 to 2016 school year and the 2016 to 2017 school year, CE2, E2. If a state chooses not to make new AMAO accountability determinations, what are the general requirements for LEAs in the 2016 to 2017 school year that did not meet AMAOs for at least 2 or 4 years based on the most recent AMAO determinations that the state made, and LEA that was implementing an improvement plan in the 2015 to 2016 school year or other interventions or reforms pursuant to Section 3122, B, 4, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, must continue to implement the improvement plan or other interventions and reforms in the 2016 to 2017 school year, and the state must continue to provide technical assistance and support to each such LEA. E3. Must an LEA that fails to meet one or more of its AMAOs based on assessment results from the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, or 2016 to 2017 school year or would not meet its AMAOs if the state made AMAO determinations, provide notice to parents of such failure in accordance with Section 3302, B, of the SE, as amended by NCLB? No. For the reasons described in Annotative 4B, ED is not requiring states to comply with the requirements in Section 3302, B, because ED is not requiring the calculation of AMAOs based on assessment results from the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, or 2016 to 2017 school years. States and LEAs are not required to comply with the parental notification requirements in Section 3302, B, of the SE, as amended by NCLB, which requires each LEA that fails to meet one or more of the AMAOs to provide notice to parents of such failure. Please note, however, that each state and LEA must continue to comply with the parental notification requirements in Section 3302 of the SE, as amended by NCLB, through the 2016 to 2017 school year, which requires that an LEA provide notice to the parent or parents of a student identified as an English learner within 30 days of the start of the school year or, for students identified later in the school year, within 2 weeks. That includes, for example, the reason for identification, parents' rights, and other important information. 16 SATR ANSITI on FAQs US, Department of Education Title III, Part A Reporting Requirements E4. What must a state report to ED as part of the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 school year CSPR submissions as it relates to AMAOs? A state is no longer required to submit AMAO data collected through ED Facts, Data Groups 569, 518, and 688 in File Specification Number N103, for the 2014 to 2015, 2015 to 2016, and 2016 to 2017 submissions. This means a state is no longer required to provide information in Section 1.6.4.1 of the CSPR, specifically, Title III Subgrantee Performance. For a state that has already submitted this information for the 2014 to 2015 school year, there is no additional action required. For a state that has not yet submitted this information, there is no need to submit it in the future. ED does not expect a state to report this information for the 2015 to 2016 school year CSPR collection that will begin in fall 2016 or for the 2016 to 2017 CSPR collection that will begin in fall 2017. Please note, however, that there are no changes to other components of the Title III CSPR reporting requirements. Each state is still required to report, for example, the number and target number of English learners making progress and English learners attaining proficiency on the state's annual English Language Proficiency Assessment 17.
Hmm. That was it. It was almost over. So stop the share and understand all states have a requirement for highly qualified. And what I don't know what they're doing here in Nevada, something that's insanity because they want to make children teachers. And that's just not going to work. So we'll have to wait and see how this all turns out. But until we meet again, this is Citizen Anderson out here. I'm not on Podbeam, I'm on YouTube today. But Darlene Anderson, 1958. And just understand it's critical that we get involved and engaged. What are you doing in 2024? Stand up and be heard. Vote. Y'all have a blessed day now.